Hey guys, welcome back to another Architecture Real Talk. So today's topic, we're going to be looking at whether architecture is a relevant field to pursue in 2023. One of the questions that I've been getting mostly coincides with my previous two videos where we talked about how to explore the field of architecture, how to select out your design degree. And a lot of the questions that I've been being asked are fundamentally, is an architectural degree in this day and age worth it? Like, should I even go after an architecture degree when you have 160 credit hours versus 135 credit hours? And you do compare and contrast, and you're going 5 years, then you're looking at 3 years of internship. Let's go ahead and do a deep dive. So let's look at it as a pros and cons list. And I'll list off the pros first, and we'll talk about some of the cons that I've always been mentioning in these videos. So one of the pros for becoming an architect is it's a very versatile field. You can become an interior designer, you can become an industrial designer, which is product design. You can become a manufacturer, you can become a technician, you can become an AutoCAD technician, you can become a structural design technician, you can become oil and gas technician. You can lay out pipe drawings all day if you wanted to. You can become an architectural historian. You can become an architectural researcher, right? You can go out and become a landscape architect, do playgrounds, pools. You have a versatile field that allows you to become a master builder or become anywhere you want to go into construction. Now, whether you choose to specialize in project management and pursue a higher learning education after that, that's a different story. But you have avenues open up just because you have a bachelor degree. See me as an educator, and you can teach in colleges, university. You can pretty much become a teacher if you wanted to. So again, you have a lot of avenues coming out of the architectural field itself, right? You have a lot of creativity. Second point I want to mention is there's creativity, adaptability. Our field pretty much can change with time. It evolves with technology. Now, a lot of the rumors about AI replacing architecture, although they're able to output rendering fairly well, if you were to give it a rough image, they cannot do design solve. They cannot program solve. They cannot come up with design solutions yet, right? Problem solving capability of an architect looking at building codes, doing a deep dive analysis of a site is not capable by AI just yet. And because of the creativity aspect of the field, it is very hard to replace us as a qualitative field to be replaced by robots, right? Quantitative, like calculation, math, and stuff like that, we've already had that. Calculators have been helping us. We've all passed abacus and all of these structural scales and things of that nature. But sizing for design components, changing for aesthetic purposes, is not yet fine-tuned for AI. Now, another thing I want you to understand is one of the biggest pros for architecture is entrepreneurship. You have this mindset from the very get-go. The moment you graduate from a university or any accredited degree, you want to pursue licensure. One of the things that interns do is they look at what experience I need. You need experience in programming. You need experience on site. You need experience in project management. Guess what? You're constantly exploring multiple avenues. And in those avenues, you're walking and coming across different people, different teams. And you might find yourself in front of a contractor. You might find yourself in front of a client. And what you have is this interaction of people who have a lot of power, a lot of money. And you realize that, hey, I want to become an entrepreneur. And you start coming up with ways to become an architect or a standalone firm by yourself. And this is one of the things that is inherent in our degree. I don't think I have seen that across any engineering degree that teaches you to pretty much branch out and eventually start your own practice. If you want your creative fruition comes to life, you want to become your own business. And it's something I advocate for, that you limitless ceiling that you have as an architect is entrepreneur rights. Now, along with that, you have a bunch of cons that come with this degree as well. So one of the cons of becoming an architect is that your work is never finished. If you are a perfectionist of your craft, you will realize firsthand that your construction documents will never come to an end. you will realize that things that are resolved on paper, there's have to be certain things that has to be resolved on site, or you will never move on from that project. I have still regrets from post occupancy of some projects that have been completed that I wish that I could change the design decision on. And you always have this on the back of your head that maybe I could have done something slightly better there. The entrance could have been slightly tweaked. And those design decisions will constantly affect you. That's one of the smaller cons of this profession. Another thing is that your pay initially is never sufficient. I have always felt like architects usually start off with a salary around $48,000 or $50,000, and it is subpar that of a entry-level civil engineer. Entry-level civil engineers usually start around $60,000, and structural engineers, and they will grow very rapidly. Our growth is not as much in the first 5 to 10 years, and we are able to catch up to it. But there's this idea in architectural field itself that is ingrained, and I don't know how to get this out of it, but it is ingrained into the field that you have to go through the grind to evolve. You have to do your time, right? And you have this, for the first 5 to 10 years, you have this very poor level mindset that I cannot be self-sufficient. I have to do my grind. I have to put in 70, 80 hours worth of work, that there's a poor balance of my work-life balance. I have to do the grind, and I'm constantly thinking about side hustles, which again can turn into a pro if you were already thinking about going into entrepreneurship. But someone who looks for stability of work, you'll realize very soon that, hey, I'm constantly battling against work-life balance to gain stability. One of the things that I always encountered at the office that had a very high paced work environment is I will constantly be about to leave around 5 o'clock like normal professions would, and I would have regrets that my team is still staying after. So there are moments where you realize that you no longer have boundaries between work. Another letdown for a lot of the newer generation is the moment you enter a field, there's a lack of design or lack of design aesthetic or lack of forward thinking when it comes to old profession. So you have a young grad that comes out exploring cantilevers, very, very nice metal structural design. You have been studying Calatrava, you've been looking at Zaha Hadid, and you walk into a firm and all they're doing is pretty much putting up multifamily housing. And you cannot associate with that design because of the fact that it doesn't speak to you. When you look at their design process of pulling from old projects, pulling details from old project, taking a whole wing from another building, you're really let down that this is not the design profession that I chose to be in. So there's like a huge drawback when the moment you graduate. I feel like there's a shock, and much of the people leave the industry because of that shock. Right? They'll pursue construction, go into different avenues, start doing their own thing, and later realize that the clients that they're running into are fairly cheap and they haven't created enough connection. So they fall back into these firms having a very miserable type of life, right? Another long-term thing that I want you to think about is that huge license requirement that is required for architects to become architect. For example, when you go through a 5-year NAB accredited degree, and then you do 3 years or 2.5 years of gaining those 5,500, 6,000 credit hours of just experience hours in project management in various different fields. Then you have to go through 5 or 6 exams that are approved by NCARB, and there's pretty much a licensure process for all 50 states. You realize that it's a doctor level journey that has significantly less pay than a doctor for you to actually come into this profession. So a lot of people realize that this journey is not really worth it at the end. Or what it used to be is just a simple apprenticeship which will allow you to just take 1 or 2 exams. But we are responsible for life and safety. So at the end of the day, that huge letdown of 8+ years, combine that with all those cons, doesn't make the degree worth it. But in short answer, from my point of view, I would still pursue this degree if I had the chance to do it again. That high that you get from just understanding that you can deliver something that a doctor can't. A doctor only drives by a funeral home or drives by a graveyard and says, there's my patient. An architect drives by buildings and says, those are my creations. So at the end of the day, we continue to create, inspire, and create a new innovative world. Until next time. Follow for more content